Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us in this session. This is OneNote and Class Notebook, collaborative, creative, colorful. And my name is Matt Miller. I am your presenter. And so if you're watching this on the video replay, we're so glad that you found us. If you are watching us in the live, then we just spent about 5 minutes before we started recording getting to know each other. So just wanted to say again that I'm so glad that you got to join us. And so we're going to be talking through OneNote, which I have to say is my favorite note-taking app. And I've tried a bunch of them, lots of different things in a variety of platforms. OneNote is still my absolute favorite. And I love the fact that you can use OneNote with your class to make this great collaborative space. And we're going to touch on that in a little bit. So this presentation is part of the Global EdTech Academy. And so if you want to catch more live sessions coming up, or if you want to see any of the previous sessions on a video replay, like you may be watching this one, you can go to q.org, that's cue.org/Microsoft, and then either click on the schedule for upcoming sessions or click on the session videos for the recorded sessions. So with that in mind, let's start taking a look at OneNote. And so I'm going to do a quick screen share. I'm going to do a little reshuffle of my my windows on here real fast. The reason is that I've got my I've got a monitor over here, and then I've got my Surface tablet right here, and I want to be able to write on that Surface tablet so you can see all of it. So I'm going to do a quick screen share so you can see my screen, which happens to have OneNote on it. And so, like I was saying, I really do love OneNote for the flexibility that it has for taking notes. And so I wanted to show you just real quick kind of what OneNote looks like, and then we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about it. So with OneNote, you can create a couple of different notebooks, which are bigger picture things, and then you can sort them down to sections, and then each section can have individual pages. So when it comes to OneNote, I kind of think of it like a great big binder, where the binder is the notebook, and you know how within a binder you can have different tabs for the different sections. That's this part over here, and then inside of each of those tabs there are different pages. And so if you think about the organizational structure, that's how it works. Jacqueline asked, do you use a slate to write on your OneNote, or do you usually write directly on my Surface tablet? I write directly on my Surface tablet. Like, I have the Surface pen right here, and then I'm going to write directly on it, as you're going to be able to see. Actually, see, there it is right there. Okay. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing, and that's the way that I work with it. So, okay, so we've got OneNote right here. And the thing that I love about OneNote, if I add a new page here, is that I can give it a title, and then I can type text right here. Here is where I can type my text. So I can add text, which is really nice. And then I just did a right click there so that I could change the size of my font. And then, of course, I can highlight it if I want to. I can bold. I can do all of those different things. So I can do that with text. The other thing that's neat is that I can also write with a pen. And so having that is really nice. The other thing that people say about OneNote that I think is really cool is that each page, I'm doing a pinch down, by the way, a pinch to zoom out. They have what they call the infinite canvas. And so what the infinite canvas means is that I can add more text or more content over here to the side, and then I can make it smaller and I can add more. And so see, I can keep going as far over as I want because it is an infinite canvas. And now, of course, it gets teeny tiny. So if I look over here at my text, you can see how small it is. But I can use my fingers to kind of pinch out. And so, being able to zoom in and zoom out on different things, I can make this as big as I want, side to side, up and down. Fantastic. Jennifer says, do you think OneNote would be worth using if you don't have a touchscreen or if you're a Google school? Ah, that's a good question. So if you don't have a touchscreen, you start to lose out on some of it. But I will also say, see, some of the stuff that I've shown you so far, I've done with my pen. Let me put that pen away for just a little bit and show you some of the stuff that you can do. Okay, two things on that question. One is, if you don't have a touchscreen, is it helpful? And I think the answer to that is yes, because what you can do is you can add a whole bunch of stuff. Like for instance, if I click this insert button, notice that even if I don't use the touchscreen, I can add files, I can add tables, I can add pictures, I can go find online videos and grab a link to a YouTube video or someplace else. I can add in links, I can record audio. Check this out. Here I'm just doing a quick recording of my voice. It started just as soon as I clicked on it, and now I'm done. I click stop, and now that's saved right there. And so now I can hang on to that audio file and attach it. That's one of the reasons I promise I'm still answering your question, Jennifer, is that whenever you can use all of these different things, especially if you teach math. I'm not a math teacher, so I don't know how effective this is, but I've heard math teachers talk about how the math tools are really helpful. But with all of these things that you can add to it, I think that it definitely might be worth using if you don't have a touchscreen. Let me get to the second part of your question, which was, the question was, what if you're a Google school? There is a way to get access to all of the Microsoft files through your school Google account. And it's this thing called I'm going to type in Microsoft single sign-on. And actually, I've got a blog post about this real fast. I'm going to try to grab a link to it real quick, and I'm going to put it on the screen right here. Here's how I found it. Ditch that textbook, Microsoft single sign-on, and there it is right there. Use your school Google account to get 22 free Microsoft apps. I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to stick it in the chat if anybody live is interested in checking that out. Then that's one way that your school can set it up so that you can get access to all of the Microsoft tools for free using your school Google account. So I'm just going to throw that out there. And Jennifer says she lives on my Ditch That Textbook website. That's so sweet. And Wendy even says, okay, I missed out on some of the conversation. Wendy says you could even use OneNote when in a Zoom session. Yes, absolutely. So think about that. What if we add a new page? And I'm sharing my screen during a Zoom session or during a Teams session or a Skype session or whatever your video call platform is. And if I want to write, if you have a touch screen, and if I want to write with a pen, let's say that I'm doing kind of like a semantic map or a word web or something, being able to draw that all out on the screen can be really helpful. Oh, cool. P.S. You all are using the chat like a pro, by the way. This was what I was hoping for, is that we would have this kind of all running. Can you insert a doc or a presentation? I think that's what Jacqueline was saying with insert a printout. That's something that I'm not familiar with, so I'm just going to click on it. Let's pull a... Okay, so this is a... I'm going to convert a PowerPoint presentation. It's converting it to a PDF, and then it's going to throw it right here into the note. So that's a pretty cool feature as well. It's taken it just a second to convert that to PDF. I'm just trusting that Jacqueline said that inserting a printout was the coolest thing, and so it's something that is worth checking out. Okay, looks like this is taking a long time. I'm okay with everybody. And she says it can take a while if the file is large. Only works within the app. Oh, I'm so glad that you brought this up too. The online browser only does the printout if it's a PDF. Heads up, that's good. And that's something else that I wanted to mention about OneNote. What you see on my screen right now is the desktop app, or like the computer app. there's a variety of ways that you can interact with OneNote. One of them is by having the download of the app onto your device. That's probably the best way. That's my favorite interface for OneNote. You can run OneNote on your phone as well, or your whatever mobile device. It could be a tablet or an iPad or something like that. So you download that app and you put it on there, and then even if you don't have, if your laptop isn't touchscreen, your cell phone is. And so if you want to do a little bit of drawing with your finger, you could even bounce back and forth. There's also the ability to run OneNote on the web. So if you get a link, you can run it on the web, and then you can also run it directly through Teams. I'm going to show that to you in a little bit too. So, okay, lots and lots of things that we can talk about. See, we're already like 10 or 15 minutes into this, and we feel like we've just only barely scratched the surface. So this first part, I just wanted to show you the gist of what OneNote looks like, how the organization works, and what some of the things were that you can add in your notes. Okay, so that's one part of it. Now, the other thing that I love about it is that you can use it within Microsoft Teams. So if you have a team built for your class, you can set it up so that you get what they call the class notebook. So let me show that to you real quick. Oh, there's our chat right there. But I'm going to go back real fast. Let's see. Give me 2 seconds here to open up Teams again. Here we go. This is what I wanted. This is it right here. Okay, this is my class. This is just a dummy class that I set up called Mr. Miller's Awesome Class. And this is in Microsoft Teams. And so my class is this team. And then within my team, I have a variety of different channels. Now, what you'll notice is that in my general channel, I have this thing called Class Notebook. This is something that you can set up. And if you're curious about how that works, let me show it to you real fast here. So to create a class notebook, what you really want to do is you want to sign into your class notebook, and see it's part of OneNote. And so, following this along, you come into OneNote and then you click the Create Class Notebook button. This is a setup that you only have to do once. You can give your class a name, type in the teacher's name and the email address, and then you add students. And then what's neat is you can select which sections you want your students to have. And then once it's done, that's totally set. Let me take that support link and I'm going to drop that into the chat in case you want to know a little bit more about that. And then it's really easy to add students as well. So once you get into this, you just click the, this is in the class notebook part of OneNote. Or no, sorry, you sign into office.com and then select class notebook. That's what it is. And then you click add or remove students. And then it's able to pull in your students' names that's part of your school database. You can add them to your notebook. It's pretty easy to do. And so that I'm also going to drop into the chat if you're interested in checking that out. So those are some of the easiest ways to get the whole thing set up. I didn't want to just totally breeze over the setup part just in case you're at the beginning. I know that sometimes your school will set up your teams and may even set up your class notebook for you. But here's what's cool about the class notebook. I'm going to click on this. It takes just a second for it to load up. Oh, there we go. Okay, so within my class notebook, you'll see it says Mr. Miller's Awesome Class Notebook. And so this is the class notebook for it. Within your class notebook, you have kind of like three different parts. In fact, I'm going to use my pen real quick to draw you some visuals for this. Okay, so it's really, oh, looks like, it'll let me do it now. Oh, you know what, let's switch back over to, that's something, using my pen is something that I've got to do here in OneNote. So I'm going to draw you the visuals like this. This is kind of what Class Notebook is like. it's got 3 different parts. It's got the collaboration space, and this is where everyone can edit files. So this is where you pull in, this is a place where everybody can get into files and everybody can work on them, which is kind of cool. You've got the library, and this is where everyone views. So the library is the part where you can add files that you want students to look at, like your classroom management plan, maybe a syllabus or something like that, stuff where you want them to be able to view it, but not necessarily work on it. And then you've got the student section. And the student section is where it's just the teacher and the student only. And what's cool about that is that the student can work on work, and then the teacher can go jump into that place and go look at the student work, but none of the other students can see it. So it's just for, you know, the individual student and for the teacher, which is kind of cool. And so that's the general idea of the class notebook. In fact, let me switch over to my class notebook and you can see how it kind of works. See, there's my collaboration space. This is the place where everybody in my class can work. So I created this little note right here, and I even made a table where students could put their name, and then they could fill in, what's your favorite color? Blue. What's your favorite animal? Dog. Where do you want to be when you grow up? Teacher, obviously. Where do you live? Indiana. And so any of the other students are able to jump in and fill in a line there. They can also draw on the screen if they want to. They can add text if they want to. That's what the collaboration space is about. The content library, again, this is the place where I can drop in files for them to see but not work on. So for instance, it says here, ask students to copy pre-made pages from other sections, post important information like syllabus calendars, permission slips, share course readings, store lecture notes, capture class whiteboards for future reference. That's all good stuff to put into the content library. And then you've got the student sections, and these are all of the different student sections. And so you can see in this particular one, if I drop down this one student, this is their file for class notes. This is just for that one student. They can put their class notes in there, they can put their handouts in there, their homework and their quizzes. And they're able to see it, and I'm able to see it, but nobody else is able to see it. Tara says, does the whiteboard app integrate with OneNote? So I believe, you know what, I'm just going to be honest with you, Tara. I'm not totally sure. That's a really good question. Let me scroll back up and see what other questions we have. Wendy asked, so you couldn't use a presentation with Pear Deck within OneNote. It might just be a place for class notes and stockpiling files. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking about Pear Deck. If you're not familiar with Pear Deck takes your slides and makes them interactive. And I'm not thinking of a reason why I would need to integrate Pear Deck with OneNote. OneNote is a great place for taking notes, doing collaborative notes, storing ideas. But to do a Pear Deck, for me, I would just pull up the PowerPoint presentation, start the Pear Deck presentation, and have students join it in the web browser. And so I can't think of a reason why Pear Deck would necessarily need to interact. Tara's saying, when I've used OneNote, some students can't read a PDF that I have posted. Is there a special way that I should be posting these in OneNote? I think, you know, again, I'm still sort of learning about that. I would think if you insert a printout, you know, insert a printout for a PDF, if you do that, and that's what we were talking about earlier, I think that would probably be the easiest way to do that. Somebody correct me in the chat. I'm happy to be corrected. Elaine asked, do you think it's best to put videos in the OneNote for students versus using Teams channels? That's a good question. And I'd say it just sort of depends on where you think they'll access it. You know, if we switch back over to Teams real quick, you know, I could very easily go to my general channel and I could add a video. See, there it is right there from Stream. So if I've done, you know, a recording of a Teams video, or if I have done a video by using the Microsoft Video Editor and I've finished it and I saved it to my stream, I could insert that video into my Teams stream right here if I think that's the easiest place for them to get it. Now, if I'm over here in OneNote and I'm taking some notes here and I go, oh, you know what? There was that one video that fits perfectly with this and I want to just have it all in one place. I'm going to go insert that video right. So I think that's one way that you could handle that. So, all right. Lorna says, do you use the teacher only section? And I think you certainly could. That's what this is right here. If you wanted to save things, this is the way that I would do it. If you wanted to save things specifically for that class, like for instance, if you had something for yourself that was related to that class, I might drop that into the teacher only section. I think that you could certainly do it that way. Again, if anybody else has different ways to use that, then certainly drop those in. All right. Okay, it looks like we're getting some. Oh my goodness, you guys have lots of questions. Looks like Ray asks, are all PDFs compatible with Immersive Reader? We're getting above my pay grade on that one. She says, I've been having trouble getting Immersive Reader to read PDFs in class notebook. That's a great question. I would imagine that if you put the PDF into Teams, that it would probably be able to interact better within Teams. That's just going to be my guess. Wendy asks, and it looks like Deborah answered this question, how do you manage what students are adding to the collaboration space? Deborah says you can turn off the collaboration space if you don't want to use it. Okay, so I'm glad we brought this up. You can turn the collaboration space off. Now, I'm glad that we have this question. So Deborah's answer is, if you want to shut it off, you can shut it off. Let me give you, I'm going to turn my screen off for just a second. Let me give you a different answer to that question. The answer could be you can just shut it off. But I'm going to also say that the answer to that might be, let's try to and so if at the very beginning, students are maybe using it in ways, using that collaboration space in ways that they're not supposed to. It might be easy for us to just, as a knee-jerk reaction, say, that's it, I'm shutting that down. And really, if you don't need it, then shut it down. But I know for me, I've used collaboration spaces in the past in different platforms. And for me, I wanted to create a culture of collaboration. And I wanted to create a team, a class that was collaborative learners. And so for me, it was really big to take my lumps at the beginning a little bit and know that students were going to use it in ways that I didn't want them to, and continue to set the tone and say, hey, you know what? This is something that as a class, we're gonna collaborate in the right ways here. And so if we collaborate in the right ways, then this is what we can do and this is what we can't do. And so instead of just shutting it down, I think that a good way to handle it is to set the ground rules and kind of follow them through. I cannot keep up with all of you guys in the chat. And it looks like I kind of feel like I'm over here talking and there's a whole other conversation going on over here, which is fantastic in some ways, but also kind of overwhelming to me. All right, let's see if we've got questions. I am also being very transparent with y'all and saying that I don't know everything about OneNote and I don't know the answers to all of these questions. So maybe if you all handle some of these questions in the comments together, I can continue forward with the stuff that I have prepared for you. So let's see. Can you print a PowerPoint onto a page in a class notebook? That's something that I was actually just getting ready to do. So let me share my screen real quick and I can show that to you. Let's see. We're going to go to screen 1. There we go. You can do that by using the printout feature. And so that's under insert. So in this case, I have the desktop app open. And if I go to insert and I choose printout, that's where you can go and you can find a PowerPoint presentation, and then it generates as a PDF, and then it inserts it into your OneNote. looks like this one is going quick. So I'm going to wait for just a second. Aha, here we go. And see, check that out. Now it's taken that entire PowerPoint, it's turned it into a PDF, and then now all of the slides are dropped in there. That's probably the easiest way to do it right there. Yay, I answered a question. All right. Okay, cool. Let's see. I don't see. Okay. I'm going to leave the rest of that stuff in the chat. I'm going to keep going. How about that? I'll keep looking over there for questions, but I've got some others to go. Okay, so we talked a little bit about setting it up. We talked about the different teams or different sections of the class notebook. So I wanted to ask you all this, because I've done some stuff like this in a different platform that works kind of similarly. So I'll throw some ideas in here too, but I'd love to hear in the chat anything that some of you all think about this. Because remember, we have the collaboration space. Let me see if I can find that note. There it is again. We have that collaboration space where everyone is able to edit. And so if you can think about how that could be helpful, I'm going to do this for all three of these sections, but I wanted to ask, how could that collaboration space be helpful? What are the kinds of things that you could do in your class with the collaboration space? I know for me, one of my favorite things to do was to drop a slide presentation, you know, like a PowerPoint into it, and then let every student add a slide to it. And so what that might look like is we come over here to the collaboration space. And then within the collaboration space, actually, instead of a PowerPoint, let me back off of that for a second. But letting everybody have a space. And so it could be something as simple as, you know, like let's create in this case, we created a table. And within this table, everybody's got a space. And so then, you know, with the table, let's insert, you know, we could insert some more rows down here for more students, and then have everybody jump in and, you know, answer questions. I would say with this, it's probably better not to have the collaboration space where you answer questions where you're trying to see if they know the right or wrong answer, because then of course, if you've got 4 questions and you've got everybody else answering, it's so easy to copy. This is really better for a place where everybody's contributing their own unique contribution to it. So as far as the collaborative space goes, that could be really good. What are some things we've got over here? Tammy said, first day of school pictures for distance learning. Oh, that's fantastic. So if we want to insert pictures, we could even take a picture from the camera. Oh, look at that. Let me flip it around real quick, because that's my other camera, which is on the back. That's on the back of my my device. And so we're going to insert that picture. And so you could even use that, you can even insert that picture, you know, straight out of your camera if you wanted to. What if you had all of your students inserting pictures into something like this? That could be kind of cool. So I'm glad that she brought that up. What else could we do with the collaborative space? Let's see. We've got, sorry, it's taking me just a second to get back. Mark said curate collaborative research via OneNote web clipper. Let me unpack that for a second. Curate collaborative research. So I guess that means we're going to do collaborative research where we all look up different things on a specific topic. We curate it, which means we pull it all together in one place via the OneNote web clipper. Okay, the OneNote web clipper is a cool thing that you can use to grab things off of the web and stick them easily into your OneNote. And so if you're interested in that, file it away or go do a web search about it, because that's not actually part of my presentation here, but I'm glad that Mark brought that up because that's a good idea. Krista says if you use the notes in a channel that you created, they sync to the collaboration space in the class notebook. So you can have students grouped in different channels working, and as a teacher, I can view everything there or in the collaboration space. Very good, very good. Okay. Deborah says, I use the collaboration space for students to post problems that they had missed individually and then solve them together. That's fantastic. So think about it. If we had in this collaboration space, if you had a student add a page and it was problem I'm struggling with, I bet they probably wouldn't name it that, but, and then they're able to, here, let me switch my drawing tool real quick. I'm sure that this probably would not be the problem that they would struggle with, but we put a problem up there. And then other students are able to pop in here. Now, again, remember, I'm using my pen here with the touchscreen. And again, you don't have to do that. You can definitely use the math tools here to do that. And so, you know, being able to put that in there and solve it collaboratively, that's fantastic. I think that's a great idea. Okay. So let's keep moving. Content library. What are some things that we could put into a content library? You know, I think that it had some good suggestions here. For instance, of course, if you've got a syllabus, permission slips would be good, class rules, that kind of thing. I would also say that maybe anything that you and your class has created together could be fun. I'll give you an example from my own class. This says capture class whiteboards for future reference. So within that, when I was teaching high school Spanish, I'm going to turn my screen off for just a second so you can see me. When I was teaching high school Spanish, we would practice vocabulary and grammar by making up stories together in Spanish. It's one of my favorite things to do. We would write 3 or 4 vocabulary words on the whiteboard. And then we would start up this story, and I would ask the students questions like, okay, what's the name of the girl in the story? She has a dog. What's the dog's name? She's getting ready to go into town. Where is she going? And I'd have them like fill in different things. Sometimes it was the students that were the stars of those stories. And we would draw out little stick figure illustrations of everything that was happening in the story. And then sometimes when the story was over, especially if one of the students was the star of the story, sometimes they would want to take a picture of it. And so I could see very easily taking a picture of that whiteboard and then sticking it into your content library, the view-only content library, so students could go see it later. And then, of course, if you've done notes on a traditional whiteboard, just snapping a quick picture of it, throwing it into the content library, that could be really easy too. And so there's lots of things that I think that you could use when it comes to the library. And then as far as using the student spaces, of course, that's a really nice place for them to be able to work on the work that they need to turn in. It's also a good place for you to be able to, you know, drop comments and feedback and that kind of thing into that as well. So that's a really helpful thing too. Okay, excellent. So now let's start to brainstorm a little bit on this. If we have a blank OneNote page right here, let's say that we're either a student or we are, well, yeah, let's say that we're a student and we've got this one blank OneNote page. What could we as a student do on a blank OneNote page, knowing all of the things that we could insert in? So like, how could we use One Classroom is really what I'm trying to ask. So I want to throw a couple of ideas up there, and then I would love it if you all continued to throw some stuff into the chat. I tell you what, the chat in this one has been fantastic. You all have dropped so much stuff in. I need to go back and reread it because there's a lot of things that that I could be learning from it. So here's one simple thing that you could do within OneNote with your students. And that is to create something that's kind of like a digital interactive poster. So you think about a regular poster and you've got poster boards. Let me bring my screen back up again. And so within that poster, what have you got? You probably got pictures, you probably got text. And you probably need glue sticks and pictures and all of that stuff if you're doing like a regular one, and the poster board and everything. Forget that poster board and that glue stick. Let's do it digitally. And so let's start off with some pictures. Let's say, for instance, that I'm going to do a poster board about my home state of Indiana. So I could go into pictures and I could search online. Now, of course, I feel like whenever I search online for pictures, it's always good to remember that, you know, pictures have licenses, and some licenses let us do certain things with them. They're as free as public domain images, which you can use however you want, all the way down to copyrighted images that you're not supposed to use. And then in between that, you've also got Creative Commons ones where you have certain permissions that you're able to use. So whenever I search for Indiana, and so I get a picture of the state flag, which I can click on and add. Having trouble adding this one for some reason. Let's try a different one. There we go. Okay, so that's a picture of downtown. Now, one thing, here's how I'm going to say that I'm going to use this one, since we were just talking about licenses. I'm going to say that I'm just going to use this for the sake of making my activity, and I'm not going to publish it or post it any place beyond myself and my teacher, in which case I think we have more liberties on how we can use those images. So we've got that. We can drop in a, a state flag. And so we got a variety of different images that we can use here. Let's throw this one in here too. Okay, so once we've got some images in place, of course, we probably want to do some text too, right? So we add in a text box and say, my home state is Indiana. The capital is Indianapolis, but I live close to Illinois in a little town. I'm going to take that and I'm going to make the text bigger. Okay, so then there's that. But what's neat about this is, see, I think if you just use something like OneNote to make the same kind of digital posters that you always made before in, on poster boards, then we're kind of losing out on the fact that this is a powerful tool, OneNote is, and we're not using it to its full potential. And so instead of just doing the same stuff that we did, we might think, well, how can we kick this up a notch? How can we make this a better activity because of how we're using OneNote and what its features are? So I can, if we just look along the menu up at the top, we can see that, for instance, we can add. What I'm trying to do right now in the background is grab a video. We can add online video. Now, what's neat about this, I want to pop open this page for just a second so you can see. Within your OneNote, there's lots of things that you can embed. Now, what we're about to embed is a video, an online video. Oh, look, that's the same image that we had over there. It says the 10 best places to live in Indiana. And so I can take this and I can resize it and make it bigger. So now, just think about that. Now that we've got this video, now all of a sudden we're sort of redefining what a digital poster might look like. Now this is an interactive poster that I can actually click on and watch a video from. Now the thing that I was just about to show you a second ago was this, that not only can you embed an online video, but there's lots of things that you can embed into a OneNote. So as you look down through this list, I'm going to take this link and copy it into the chat real quick in case you're interested. Eliana says GeoGebra and Desmos embedded are great. Yeah, if you are a math teacher, adding those two things in and what you can create with math digitally is fantastic. And so yeah, that's a really good one. You can add Buncee creations. You can add Flipgrid videos. Genially is this really neat interactive basically these interactive presentations that you can add. Quizlet flashcard sets, you can add that too. You can add screencasts. SoundCloud is audio. You can add sways, you can add Spotify playlists. And then of course you've got online video through stuff like Vimeo and YouTube. And of course you can add Microsoft Stream as well. So those are all things that you can embed into a OneNote. And so now if we come back here and we look at my little poster, we can also see that we have the audio function. I like living in Indiana for a variety of reasons. One of them is the pace of life. It's not too hectic. Another one is that there's lots of countryside, and so it's very quiet and peaceful, and there's lots of pretty places to go and visit. But I also like Indiana because it has some really neat cities where you can do some really cool things. See, now I just added in an extra element to my poster that you wouldn't get to have otherwise in a regular poster. Again, we're redefining what a poster might look like. So now you actually get to hear what students have said. And so I can even take this, I can even take my pen and I can say, listen to why I love Indiana. And then I can use a little arrow and draw it right up there. And so now we've got all of these different things that we can add into it, which is pretty cool. Any other thoughts on this? If we're just thinking of it as an activity, so to speak, if we were to transform something that's familiar to everyone, like a poster project, what are some other things that we could do with this? What are some other ways that we could redefine what a poster would look like? Umara says, try the dictate function in the home menu. Yeah, you could certainly do that. Dictate, what's neat about dictate is it does let you get text out a little bit faster. So for instance, if I click on dictate, here is my presentation about Indiana. And I get done recording that. And see, here it is right here. Here is my presentation. I think I cut it off before I said about Indiana. But if I wanted to get a bunch of text out and I didn't want to type with my fingers, I could use that dictate button. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I don't know about you, but I have worked with students before where the keyboard is a barrier to them getting their ideas out of their mind and onto paper or onto a document. The keyboard is a struggle. Maybe because they don't type well, or maybe because, you know, there's something with their dexterity or whatever. And so instead of having them just type traditionally with a keyboard, if you encourage them to use that dictate feature, you know, to me, whenever I'm working with students, the thing that I'm not trying to do is force them to get it through, to get all their ideas onto a document through a keyboard. I just want to see what they think. I just want to see what they've learned. And so if the dictation feature helps that, I think that's an accommodation that really any student could use. And so being able to use that could be really good too. Allison just asked, how do the students share the poster with the class? And Eliana said it's in the collaboration space. Yes, absolutely. That's a great way to do that. And so what we can do here is if we go to class notebook, we can use, somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this because I'm still sort of new on this. I could use the distribute page button to distribute it to a different notebook, or I'm not sure if that's something that I do just as a teacher. Again, forgive me, I'm still sort of learning this stuff. But if you had started in the collaboration space and we had a tab, let's say that we started a new section called state posters. And then we created new pages and each student had their name and their state. And then another student had their name and their state. And then we've got a whole bunch of them and they're saved under this state posters section. And then we've got everybody's different ones here. If I had created that in the in that collaboration space, then that would be a great place for everybody to be able to see it. Distribute it to all or selected students. I believe, Matt. You can distribute it to different teams and channels too. Okay, very good. So if I wanted to take my, let's see if I can see, I've lost where my, okay, let's just use this one. There it is, I found it. Okay, I put it in the content library, which is probably not the best place for me to have put this, but I could take this and I could distribute this page to a individual. Let's see what happens when I hit distribute page here. You all learning right alongside me. Select the student section where you want to distribute this to. Or I could hit individual distribution. And this is going to distribute it to specific students. Or I could go to a group. And so within groups, looks like I don't have any groups set up, but I could definitely do it that way. Or cross notebook distribution, so that I could distribute it to my class notebook. And then I could choose a student section that I want this to go into all of the students. So if I wanted to, let's say I had some notes, I wanted to drop this into the class notes of all the students, I could click class notes and hit distribute. And then you would be able to, they'll continue distributing. So it's going to take it just a little bit of time to complete that. Looks like it's done. And then now that that's done, I can come over here and I'll see that in the class notes, there's that sheet that I just distributed to everybody. Okay, so that's kind of aside from that fact. If I wanted to do it so that everybody had it, I would definitely put it in the collaboration space like this. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Eliana says, I have a break group section and then add different pages with different names. And when I'm in class and want them to work in groups, I just tell them to go someplace. It makes it easy on the spot collaboration space. I'm more organized and I can add content in the teams prior to the class and they each work on problems. You can also make private groups too. I'm gonna have to go back and read that again. I'm sure that that makes perfect sense, but in the moment I kind of struggled being able to see that. So, okay. So we've talked about a lot so far. I hope that you've gotten something out of this, either through the chat by the people who know more about OneNote sharing some things. I know I've learned an awful lot. Or hopefully if you're just looking for the basics, maybe you sort of saw how it all works. But you know, we've talked about the different sections of the class notebook. We've talked about what you can add when it comes to OneNote and what you can add to the notes. We talked about how you can organize it, and even some ideas on how you can use it. So hopefully that's been helpful to everybody. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining. It was great getting to interact with all of you, and I have learned a lot just from being in and being a part of this with you. So I really appreciate everybody being here and for being a part of this. And so hopefully I'll get to see you on another one of these webinars. So take care, and hopefully I'll see you on another one.
Thank you.